Hey guys, welcome to another For the Painter Good YouTube video today. Today we're going to have a look at the next Space Marine list on our Ultimate List series here that we're going to do for beginners here. So obviously this is inspired by the summer reveal show that we had. All the previews where some of the original first founding chapters got new characters. So today we're going to have a look at the Iron Hands list then in that case. So our Iron Hands character here today is Canuck Var. Very cool, to be honest with you. I really like, for example, his Tetsudo style club here and that kind of thing. It's really cool looking. So the lore behind him is actually that everything bar perhaps his left eye and the area of skin around that is actually nearly all augmetics now in this case. It's really cool. The Iron Hands aren't traditionally kind of a chapter I would identify with, but he's a really cool kind of character and that kind of thing. He's probably one of the ones that stands out maybe the least in that case. He's probably the least flashy of them, but the detail in the model is fantastic. So for example, we've obviously got like the hologram of the building that he's surveying and that kind of thing, and supposedly all these augmetics feed him real-time data the whole time so he can process it faster for battle and that kind of thing. So a really cool model. If you love Iron Hands, this is probably going to be really cool as well and that kind of thing. It's a little bit difficult to tell actually if he is in Gravis or Terminator armor. To me that looks like Terminator plate. So I'm going to kind of this list is going to have probably no Terminators in it, but by the looks of his armor you're going to want some Terminators for him to join basically in that case, if he can lead units in that case. But without further ado, let's try and jump into this list and let's try and build an Iron Hands list that would be a good, well-rounded list for beginners that would get them started, and then you could add Canuck Var and you could add maybe a squad of Terminators then for him to join as well. Who knows, maybe by that time we'll actually have Assault Terminators and actually he might be a real beat stick in close combat. You might really want to get that Tetsudo smashing heads really quickly, to be honest with you. So let's grab a little look and we'll have a look at the list then, and we're going to start off with the HQs, or the characters in this case. So for our first HQ choice here, we have a captain in Gravis armor. Now, you can kind of kit him out whichever way you want, but I just want to have a quick little chat about the captain in Gravis armor. So one of the things I actually really liked about 10th edition in particular is how they actually treated Gravis armor. So originally in 9th edition, it used to only be toughness 5, I think, on Gravis. So they used to get kind of pulped pretty easily, basically, and that kind of thing. I really like that in 10th edition, they've actually upped the toughness to toughness 6. So he's got a good standard baseline here. He's obviously only got that 5-inch movement in that case, but the toughness 6, a 3-up base save, 6 wounds. He's a nice chunky boy. Good leadership as well. As always, he's got the Space Marine Captain rule as well to reduce the cost of a CP as well. So your Armor of Contempt can be free in that case. That way? So it can be really good. And his unique ability is called Refuse to Yield, which is each time an attack is allocated to the model, you have the damage. So it's really good in that case as well. But just even from a narrative perspective, the Iron Hands are all about the flesh is weak. And that's one of the things that obviously draws a lot of people to them. They're quite vehicle heavy. They obviously don't like a lot of kind of bodies and that kind of things. And you'll see that reflected in the list that I'm doing here. But what I would say is he's quite well rounded in terms of what he can join as well. He can join Aggressors, Eradicators, and Heavy Intercessors. And each of them have a good number of wounds as well. So that half damage can come in really useful there. We actually have 2 of those in this list as well. But we'll jump into that later on in the details and that kind of thing of the list. So obviously you can give him a variety of weapons. He's obviously got the Boltstorm Gauntlet. He's got the Mastercrafted Power Weapon, or the Sword, or the Relic Blade, whichever you want to give him. But from a narrative perspective, you can nearly play this as like a Forge Father. He already has actually the Servo Skull, which I really like, because obviously Canuck Var has a little Servo Skull of his own and a few little augmetic bits as well. So that's really cool. So he wouldn't look too out of place in an Iron Hands list then, basically, if you even put this little Servo Skull in with the Captain in Gravis armor. So I think that's really useful in that perspective as well. As I said, a good base to join, and you'll find in this list in comparison to the White Scars list, I haven't really used any of the named Iron Hands characters in that case. Now, obviously, as I said, and as I always say, these lists are just my opinion on a good starter list here, so I'm trying to pick out a few different ones. You might be able to pick up some discount box sets. So, for example, this guy, if you had the original, I think it was the Dark Imperium box set, there was an original sculpt of this. This is obviously the updated sculpt, but there is an original sculpt with the, I believe it's with the power sword in the air. I have one of them for my Crimson Fists there. So if you've got one of those kicking around, you could always use them and that kind of thing. But overall, he's a strong starting point, really well-rounded character, big tough brick to move as well. He'll slog his way up the board under heavy fire, and it never hurts to be able to reduce the cost of a CP as well in that case. Next up for our next character, we have the Techmarine then in that case. Originally called the Primaris Techmarine, but obviously in 10th edition we have dumped the Primaris and Firstborn and things. We're just going, everything is Space Marines now. And truly I think that's a good way to go, to be honest with you. With Kanokvar, they don't say he's a Primaris in Terminator armor. He is just an awesome character, and that's the way I think Space Marines always should be, to be honest with you. They mention it, I think, at the end of one of the Dawn of Fire series, how they're mismatched in their armor and their mark and their generation of Space Marine that they are, but they will be brought together in one fighting force. And really I like that, to be honest with you, because it gives Games Workshop a bit of flexibility then to do a few bits and pieces as well. But anyway, jumping into our Techmarine here then in that case. So Techmarine is going to be really important to this list, and also very lore accurate for an Iron Hands list as well in that case. Techmarine, obviously, a lot of the Iron Hands are mechanically oriented, we'll call it that way. So they are really good in that case as well. The Techmarine really blends in with that aesthetic again as well. You know, you could paint him black if you really wanted to, with the white inside of the shoulder pad. It would look really good as well in that case. But he looks good in red as well, and you could just add obviously an Iron Hand shoulder pad or transfers in there as well. So the Techmarine is really good. He is pretty much a bog standard Space Marine, but with a 2-up save and a 4 wounds and that kind of thing. The normal 6-inch move is always good, but I just want to talk on his abilities at the moment as well. So from a fluffy perspective, he fits in our list, and that's what I think is the main thing here. But as I always say in these list building ones, I want to give you something that is a cohesive army here in that case. So I do have to talk a little bit about the rules when it comes to it. So he can join a lot of units in that case. You know, Assault Intercessors, Desolation Marines, Devastator squads, Intercessor squads, and Tactical squads. We're not doing any of that. Okay, he is going to be a lone character on his own. Because the first thing we're going to look at is his ability, which actually is just called Techmarine, which is when he's within 3 inches of one or more Astartes vehicles, he has lone operative. So he can't be shot off the board, and that's really good. And this is going to synergize with our list really well, because we are going to have 2 vehicles in this list in that case as well. And having that will also tie into the next part of his ability, which is the Blessings of the Omnissiah on his datasheet as well. And we can select one friendly vehicle within 3 inches. So again, we're synergizing with our lone operative as well in that case, which means we can't be shot at, I think it's outside of 12 inches now. It could be 18 now. I'm not entirely sure. But the Blessings of the Omnissiah allows us to heal a model for D3 lost wounds basically, and that'll stay that way until the start of the next command phase. And each time the model that we healed makes an attack then in that case as well, you can add 1 to the hit roll then in that case. So you can only do that to 1 vehicle every turn, but that could be really useful, particularly when you see the vehicles that we're going to add in here. Taking a vehicle from a 3-up to a 2-up to hit can be really, really tasty as well. If that's a big Oath of Moment target as well and you really want to bring it down, then you're really piling a lot of firepower onto that, and it could be really devastating for some big targets. If you're trying to hit like a knight, for example, or something like that, you could really pile on some firepower with this. Put your Techmarine to heal your biggest unit and then get them to heal it, and then they could shoot even better then as well. So it should be really good in that case. And the last one isn't too bad. The last one isn't really, it's more of a kind of nice bonus than anything else, but it's not anything super crucial. If a friendly Adeptus Astartes vehicle is destroyed within 12 inches until the end of the battle, the Omnissiah Power Axe has an attacks characteristic of 7. By the way, that Power Axe has 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 6, AP -2, and 2 damage. Marine killer. Marine killer is what I would say there, especially if you up that to 7 attacks. He will demolish any 5-man squads. If you've got like Chaos Legionnaires, you know, in a little 5-man squad and you just can't get rid of them, this guy will clear them out for you basically. So it's really good. He's obviously got the servo arm, which is flat 3 damage as well. Flat 3 damage, not super common in the game at the moment, so it's quite useful when you see it. It is only for 1 attack though, so bear that in mind when you're looking to use him as well. Also worth noting, his Forge Bolter hits on 2s as well, which is obviously really good. And his Grav Pistol is anti-vehicle 2 as well. So if you're looking to try and chip some damage from a vehicle, then that could be quite good as well. Remember, bear in mind, we're getting Lone Operative from this character as well in that case. So could be looking at some really some good synergies here with our vehicles in that case. But that is all of our characters. We only have 2 characters in this list actually in that case. A little bit less than our White Scars army in that case. But I'm going to jump on to our next set of units in that case, which is going to be our battle line guys now. So our first battle line unit in this case is our heavy intercessor squad then. So we're going to take 10 of these, which can be a little bit of a nuisance because they are only sold in boxes of 5, but I do think they're worth the while here in that case, and they're quite a big kind of points investment in the list as well. They're about 200 points, so it is quite a lot of points in that case, but I do think it's really worth it, to be honest, in the long run. Like our captain, they've got toughness 6 as well, so they're hard to shift really if they get somewhere good. This is actually where I would pair our captain. I would actually put him with these heavy intercessors personally. The half damage will be really useful because we've got 3 wounds here, so anything with 2 damage will get brought down to 1 obviously in that case. So that can be really useful if you're trying to get these to stick around. Obviously a 10-man brick of these guys as well can be really difficult to shift as well. Cover is so prominent, I should say. Cover is so prominent in the game at the moment that actually these guys will probably be on their normal save quite a lot, especially when you look at their datasheet ability then in that case as well. So their datasheet ability is unyielding in the face of the foe, which means that if this unit is within range of an objective marker you control, each time an attack with a damage characteristic of 1 is allocated to this model, add 1 to any armor saving throw made against that attack. Great thing about this is it's not limited in the same way that cover is, for example. So it's not limited in the sense that cover will only ever bring you back to a 3-up. Cover will never make you better than a 3-up. This can make you better than a 3-up. This can bring you to a 2-up armor save, which I think is really useful in that case as well. Added in here as well, you know, the heavy bolt rifles all have assault and heavy as well, so you can advance with these guys all the way up to a center field objective. You sit in space and you just unload the bolters. The heavy bolt rifles are okay. Strength 5 is good. You know, you'll get through Marines, you'll damage Orc Boys, which is really good. Damage 2 is good as well, so you will be killing like Chaos Space Marines for every wound that goes through. And you can even put heavy bolter in the squad as well, which is great. Sustained is good. It's basically the same as the heavy bolt rifle, but you get an extra shot and you get sustained in there as well. So it's really good in that sense as well. So overall, that's where we're going to put our captain in that case. So he's going to join these guys, I would say. And, you know, I think it's a good synergy overall. I think this is a good unit for slogging its way up the board. You know, they can take a lot of fire. The captain can reduce the cost of stratagems. I think overall, it's just a good kind of brick, effectively, in that case. You just put this brick wherever you want, and it should be able to last for a while in that case, depending on what gets thrown into it. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of stuff that can just go straight through it, but overall, I think that's a good investment in points. Next up on our battle line list then, we've got 5 normal intercessors in that case. So these guys, much like the White Scars, these are kind of what I always like to include these in my list personally. I always think they're a good backbone of a Space Marine army, to be honest with you. I think it's really useful to have them. Obviously, their datasheet ability, for those of you that didn't watch the White Scars video, it's basically sticky objectives, but if you're not totally familiar with the game and just want to know what sticky objectives means, it means if you control an objective marker at the end of your command phase, it stays under your control then until the enemy comes and takes it off you. So that's really good. So these guys can hang around in the backfield and that kind of stuff. Your heavy intercessor squad can slug their way up the board under heavy fire. you sticky objective your home objective, and then these guys can run off and steal a few more objectives for you, and hopefully make them sticky as well. Then in that case, they obviously have their target elimination, which means they can obviously add to the attack characteristics of their bolt rifles as well. So again, you know, they'll clear a bit of chaff for you as well if you need to. They're not going to damage like Plague Marines, I don't think, or anything like that. They won't do anything super consequential to them. But, you know, squad of Hormagaunts, Termagants threatening your field, any screening units and that kind of stuff, they'll do a good job of clearing them, I think, for you and that kind of thing. But the main thing we're putting with these guys is the sticky objectives. That's really useful. And just, again, I always go back to like a narrative perspective here. Normal intercessors are often the backbone of the Space Marine armies. They're one of the most common units in the Space Marine armies. So I do generally like to try and include them in all of my lists, in that case, in some capacity. Even in my own Crimson Fists lists that I do. I only have 5 intercessors, but I do generally always include those 5 intercessors because getting sticky objectives is really good. And I always just think it helps to make the army look a little bit more cohesive when you have some actual battle line units there as well. So that'll actually finish up all of our battle line units then in total then in that case. So we've only got to 2 of them in this case, which is alright. It's similar to the White Scars in that sense. But we've deviated slightly from the close combat side of things into the more kind of tanky, take a hit and keep going kind of vibe. The flesh is weak after all. This is Iron Hands. The flesh is weak. We can keep going basically in that case. Scarred by the mistakes of their gene father who let emotion get the better of him at Isfahan. You know, you learn a lot from their characteristics, and actually you really learn into the psyche of how that tragedy actually affected the Iron Hands and their credo overall in that case as well. So we're going to jump into some other data sheets here now in that case. So next up on our list, we've got a unit of 3 aggressors then in that case. Now, I did swither about bumping this up to 6, and then what I would do is I would take 5 of the heavy intercessors away, and then you've got 6 of these guys, and the captain joins these guys instead. So that's able to be chop and changed, by the way. This is just the way I thought this would work, but actually don't be afraid to do that if you've got 6 aggressors and chop and change that style as well and that kind of thing. Or if you feel like you get more out of aggressors than heavy intercessors, do that. Absolutely. The beauty of these lists is that these are just suggestions. Like, you can change whatever you do. And guys, I'd love to hear your feedbacks on the lists as well and that kind of stuff. Or if you've had better luck with some other stuff now, do put it down in the comments below. I would love to hear it personally and that kind of stuff, because I love to hear stories of games and that kind of thing that people have done and that kind of thing. So be really interested to know about them. But aggressors are great. I love them. Big chunky things. The Space Marine said, give me all the guns. And the Techmarine said, there are no more guns. And that's literally like, he wears all of the guns. So I didn't nail these down in terms of a weapon variety and that kind of stuff. Obviously, they've got Flamestorm or Boltstorm. I'll leave that totally up to you guys. Obviously, Flamestorm is great for Overwatch. Probably a little bit more leaning towards Salamanders, I would say, in that capacity. But then the other option is Boltstorm, and you might be leaning slightly more into Imperial Fist then if you do that. But I'll leave that to you guys. I didn't want to dictate your weapon options here in that case as well. Both varieties are really anti-infantry, to be honest with you. It's the power fists that really can do a bit of damage and that kind of thing. You know, you've got 3 sets of twin link power fists there as well, so that would be pretty tasty if you're trying to hit like a big vehicle, for example, and that kind of stuff, or maybe Oath of Moment on it. You want to charge these guys in. You've got 9 attacks, reroll your hits on your Oath of Moment target, and they're twin linked, so you reroll your wounds as well. You know, if you're playing Gladius as well, you can also do Lance if you want a +1 to wound as well. But it's really good in that case as well. And if you're making a ranged attack, their datasheet ability, by the way, is close quarters firepower. If you're making a ranged attack again against a target that is the closest eligible target, you can increase the AP by 1, which is really good in that case as well, because to be honest, all of their ranged attacks have no AP, so it's kind of a bit of a letdown in that sense. They really are, from a shooting perspective, they're really chaff clearers, and then you can maybe get into it with your power fists then to try and deal with some heavier, kind of maybe slightly more elite targets as well. As I said, with all the Gravis units in this list, I like that they're T6. It's good. We're a big chunky list in this case. We've actually got, you know, with these guys and the other units, we've actually got 14 models in this list with toughness 6. Bolt guns are going to do very little to you unless they pour a lot of fire into you. Las guns maybe do a little bit more because they get the lethals in there and that kind of thing. But overall, we're a big tanky list so far. It is a bit of a heavier points investment in this list as well, but I still think it's good variety. I think it plays into our fluff a little bit with the flesh is weak, you know, but it should be really good anyway. And plus, these guys kind of look quite techy as well. You know, you could add some servo skulls or some extra cabling or anything like that to try and make them look more Iron Hands if you want as well. But I really like them in units. I just like the Aggressors anyway. They got a lot of stick for being like a new variant of Terminator armor. I just like them alongside Terminator armor personally. For me, they don't replace it, they just complement it. Terminator armor obviously has the invulnerable save, but not as high toughness, and this obviously has a worse save but higher toughness. So it depends on when you want to try and do your saving basically and that kind of thing anyway. I also like the Terminator armor supposedly has, in the Crux Terminatus, it's supposed to be a tiny slither of the Emperor's armor, which is really cool as well. Now we're going to get into some vehicles here in that case. So we are the Iron Hands after all, so I wasn't going to make a beginner list without a tank here. We want this to be a fluffy list. The Iron Hands are known for their vehicles. They're known for that kind of flesh is weak. We're leaning more into our robots and our kind of augmetic style and our vehicles. So this is where we're going to jump into that now in that case. And I didn't think there was much better units than the Gladiator Lancer to kick off with, to be honest with you as well. As a Primaris tank, I think it's really good. It's a kind of re-envisioned Predator in my mind. And actually, I think they did an alright job on it, to be honest with you. A lot of people don't like the grav, they prefer the treads. I think you could still, I've seen a few people kit bash some treads on it, but I don't think it's a bad design for a tank. I actually have a Gladiator Reaper and I actually really like it, to be honest with you. I really like the silhouette of the tank overall though. It looks really good from my perspective. But jumping into some of the bits about it, actually, it's obviously a good toughness 10, 12 wound tank, a 3-up save in that case. It's really good in that case. Its datasheet ability is excellent as well, by the way. So, I mean, I'm picking this one because I think it just looks like a good, normal looking tank. Do you know that way? If they didn't have these guys, I'd probably have thrown a Predator tank in there instead, basically. But they have these, so why not give you the most up-to-date Primaris model? I'm also kind of a little bit reluctant to recommend Firstborn stuff at the moment because I really do think that there might be some changes. Predator is an iconic unit, don't get me wrong, but I don't feel comfortable recommending beginners to buy older models. Do you know that way? So the datasheet ability for these guys is the Aquilon Optics. So it means that when your model is selected to shoot, so when this tank is selected to shoot, you can re-roll 1 hit roll, 1 wound roll, and 1 damage roll, which is fantastic when you think that the main weapon on your tank is a Lancer Laser Destroyer that has 2 shots, hits on 3s, it's strength 14, AP -4, and d6 plus 3 damage each. Oh, and by the way, just in case you're feeling a little bit unsure, it's heavy, and so if you stand still, it gets +1 to hit, so you could be hitting on 2s anyway. That is a really good profile, really good anti-tank profile. That will do a lot of damage if you can get through some armor saves and that kind of thing. D6 plus 3 is nice as well. D6 can be a bit swingy, but D6 plus 3 is nice. But it's really good. Obviously, it's got a variety of other weapons as well in there. But that Lancer Laser Destroyer is the one that's going to do all your damage for you as well. And again, we're leaning into our Iron Hands here in that case. We have our Techmarine who can have Lone Operative here as well in that case. So if your tank has moved, keep your Techmarine close by. He can heal it up. He can give it +1 to hit natively as well if you have moved it or if you need to move it as well in that case. You know, if you tagged an objective with the Intercessors and somebody deep striked on it but you wiped them back off it, this guy can sit in your backfield and just blast away at people. You know, the Laser Destroyer is 72-inch range, so you are not going to struggle to hit things across the board with this gun, basically, and that kind of thing. So I think it's just a good all-rounder tank. It's our main source of anti-tank in that case. We have 1 or 2 other sources as well, but this is our main one here, so that's why the Techmarine is kind of quite crucial to this list as well as being quite fluffy. We're tying everything together, we're giving our synergies. You know, he can heal it for D3 wounds if your opponent does start to take it down and that kind of thing. Keep him close by to it as well, and he'll get that +7. He'll get that 7 attacks with his axe as well. But overall, I really like this tank. Actually, it got a lot of stick when it first came out because it's a grav tank and that kind of thing. I do quite like it. I think it's got a really good silhouette, and I think it just looks like a tank, to be honest with you. So what more could you really want, to be honest with you? Now we come to the Redemptor dreadnought. So I really like Redemptor dreadnoughts personally, by the way. I think most of Warhammer 40k does like Redemptor dreadnoughts, to be honest with you, because we love dreadnoughts in general. And the Redemptor chassis has been used time and time again. We've seen it on Ballistus, we've seen it on Brutalis, and obviously this is the original. I think this is really good, to be honest with you. I'm deliberately not going to mention weapons in this case, but just as a quick aside, I think I generally always give them the plasma cannon, to be honest with you, the macro plasma incinerator. I just think it's a little bit more flexible in terms of what it can deal with, and he's kind of like our second source of anti-tank in this case. So I would give him that as well. Obviously, again, going back to our fluff, going back to our narrative list that we want to build here in that case for Canuck Var, a Redemptor dreadnought is a great tie-in for Iron Hands. They love dreadnoughts. You know, the flesh is weak, so the dreadnought is the embodiment of that nearly style. It is the flesh and the machine brought together in unity, and they use it to great effect, basically, in that case. So as I said, give him the macroplasma incinerator, so he's got a little bit of variety. He can be a bit more of an elite infantry killer and a little bit of anti-tank with the supercharging as well. You know, you slap on the Gatling cannon there as well, the Onslaught Gatling cannon, the under the wrist one as well, and the Icarus rocket pod. He's also got storm bolters in there, so he's quite a variable unit. You know, you can split fire with him and use him to good effect across a few different things. Also, he actually has his Redemptor fist, so he is a bit of a close combat kind of beat stick as well, to be honest with you. You know, hitting on 3s with 5 attacks at strength 12 for flat 3 damage is rough, to be honest with you. If you're a Terminator and you fail a lot of your Crux Terminatus saves, you're gonna be in a world of hurt with this guy, to be honest with you. And he's probably shot at you with everything else first, so he might have even softened you up a little bit. But the great thing about this guy as well is kind of similar to our Gravis kind of intercessors and captain and that kind of thing. He reduces damage by 1, so he doesn't have that damage like our captain does, but he reduces it by 1 in that case. So it's really good in that sense. I think that's really useful to have. You know, it keeps your dreadnought around for longer. He's more difficult to deal with then, and if you do choose to pair your Techmarine with him rather than the tank, again, the Techmarine will heal it up as well. So our Techmarine could really bounce between vehicles here in that case. Depends on how aggressively you actually want to use your vehicles as well. You might hold your vehicles back and let those heavy intercessors and aggressors slog their way into the fight first, and then after your enemy has maybe taken a few hits from them, that's when you bring the dreadnought in to finish them off then as well. So again, another really strong entry, I think, in this list. I think Redemptors are really popular anyway, to be honest with you, but they're an absolutely fantastic unit. I mean, to be honest with you, I have one for my Blood Angels, and I nearly have one. I nearly got another one for my Crimson Fists, except I just went for a Brutalis instead. So I do really like this unit overall. It's really strong and a good entry in the list, I think. For the last entry in this list, I decided to do something a little bit different here. So I went for some Sternguard veterans here in that case as well. So I really like the Sternguard veterans. By the way, that multi-part kit that's came out is really nice. I actually haven't bought it yet myself, to be honest with you, because I have my 5 from Leviathan at the moment, and I've just been focusing on some other projects at the moment. But it's on my list to actually run a full squad of 10 with my Crimson Fist, because I love Pedro Cantor leading them from the front. So, but these guys are really good. I really like them, to be honest with you. These would lean more into your anti-infantry side. So don't forget, we've got our Redemptor and our Gladiator for the anti-tank. And then for me, you've got the Aggressors are kind of a bit between both when you include their melee. You've got the heavy intercessors, the normal intercessors that can deal with your infantry. So these will lean more into your anti-infantry side of things as well. So they've got a really good blend of stuff as well, I think, in that kind of thing. Obviously, the big thing that they have is obviously their combi weapons have devastating wounds, or their bolt rifles have devastating wounds as well as their combi weapons in that case as well. But the combi weapon obviously has the anti-infantry 4 and devastating wounds as well, which is really strong, particularly if you pair it with their Sternguard focused datasheet ability, which means that basically you can reroll your wound roll when you target your Oath of Moment target. So if you're comfortable enough with your tank, you know, let's say I've given +1 to hit on my dreadnought from the Techmarine, and my Gladiator Lancer has stood still, so he has heavy, so he doesn't need +1 to hit in that case, so Oath of Moment would be useless on the big target. So let's then focus our Oath of Moment on some anti-infantry targets and really tech into that then, basically, you know, rerolling all your hits. You've got rapid fire on the combi weapon as well, and then your anti-infantry 4 up as well, and you reroll the wound then in that case as well. That is devastating. No saves if you roll any like 4s, basically. Devastating on 4s, like, it's just absolutely lethal, basically. So they get no saves on that. So that's really kind of, it's quite strong. I actually didn't have any points to add any more of these. I thought this was a bit of a kind of left field pick for these guys as well. I'm quite kind of aware the only thing in this list is there's very limited melee options in this list. We've kind of got our aggressors. Our captain has a bit of melee to him, but he's leading the heavy intercessors, obviously. These guys have a little bit again, but nothing crazy. And then you've got the Redemptor. So it is a little bit limited. It is a little bit more of a shooting focused army than anything else. But I do think it can bring the punch when it needs to as well then, basically. So I think that's really strong anyway and that kind of thing. But overall, that is the whole list. I think that's pretty strong in terms of the Iron Hands list. I'm going to be totally honest, guys, as well. I wouldn't have known a huge amount about the Iron Hands before actually diving into this list. So I did a little bit of reading on kind of their whole chapter and the lore, and obviously how the tragedy of losing Ferrus Manus affected them. But guys, let me know if you think there's any tweaks or changes that I should do in that case. I think it's pretty well rounded, so I'll just sum it up for you now in that case. Just a quick summary just at the end here. So I have a captain in gravis armor leading 10 heavy intercessors. I've got a lone Techmarine, 5 normal intercessors, 3 aggressors, 1 Gladiator Lancer, 1 Redemptor dreadnought, and 5 Sternguard veterans. So that's the list, guys. It is 985 points. You've got 15 points left for any enhancements you want to put on either of those 2 characters as well, which is really good. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Obviously, you would probably add Kanokvar and some Terminators after this. But do let me know what you think, guys. Do you think that's a good list? Do you think I've kind of captured the personality of the Iron Hands in that list? Or do you reckon you would make a few chops and changes in there? Have I left out maybe, is there not enough vehicles? Should I add another dreadnought in? Should I have gone all dreadnoughts? Should I have put one of each dreadnought in rather than the Gladiator Lancer? Let me know in the comments below, guys. But as always, thank you very much for your time. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much. Goodbye.